Exposed: how one single mother delivery girl transformed a millionaire CEO's life after 8 rejections. Sarah's day began before dawn, the exhausted stillness of the suburban town wrapping around her like a shroud. She put on her faded uniform, a deep breath stealing her resolve. A single mother at 32, she had no illusions about her role as a delivery girl for a local food service. Each order she took on was another step toward ensuring her 10-year-old son, Ethan, had what he needed. But with every affluent neighborhood delivery, she felt the sting of judgment. Wealthy patrons looked through her as if she were invisible, only seeing the job, not the woman fighting fiercely to build a life for her child. In these moments, anguish twisted in her stomach, gnawing at her determination. A part of her fantasized about returning to school, about becoming something greater, but the thought felt like smoke slipping through her fingers. How could she balance everything? The weight of her choices pressed down on her like the oppressive midday sun, suffocating yet inescapable. She would stand at the doors of those mansions, the glimmering lights of their lives juxtaposing the shadows of her own, their harsh accusations razor-edged in the silence. Just a delivery girl. In those flashbacks, her heart raced, panic coursing through her as if she was constantly teetering on the edge of failure. What if Ethan noticed her lack of ambition? What if she couldn't give him the life he deserved? These spirals of doubt clouded her mind like storm clouds threatening to break. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. That fateful night when she arrived at Jason's penthouse was a turning point. She felt that odd twist of fate pull at her, as if the universe was challenging her to break free from the cycle. She handed over the food, and the way he looked at her, genuine curiosity in his eyes, was a shock to her system. Brief exchanges turned into words of hope, her dreams spilling out into the air between their worlds. She could almost see the flicker of inspiration ignite within him, a mirror reflecting the unresolved ambitions she held close. But with each passing moment, the uncertainty of her role settled like a weight on her chest. Was she stepping into a new life? Or was she choosing to abandon her responsibilities? The images of her son's sleepy face haunted her, his innocent smile a juxtaposition against the risk she was entertaining. If she dared to chase something more, what would become of her already fragile household? As she resumed her deliveries, her mind raced. The more she imagined pursuing her ambitions, the tighter a coil of anxiety wound around her heart. What if she couldn't handle both? The tension between the joy of opportunity and the fear of losing what she already had mounted inside her, a living dichotomy. She envisioned potential paths branching out before her, but shuddered at the thought of a wrong turn. Each decision weighed heavily, and with every hour that passed, it became harder for her to ignore the raw potential she had glimpsed alongside Jason. Yet in her quest for more, could she betray the simple yet fulfilling life she had crafted for Ethan? The stakes were rising higher than she had ever anticipated, leaving a gaping chasm of unanswered questions lingering in the dark corners of her mind. As Sarah stood at the crossroads of her desires and obligations, the tension hung thick in the air, pulsing with uncertainty. The outcome of her next steps loomed like a shadow over her. Could she trust herself to make the right choice? To battle not only the judgment of society but the very fabric of what family meant? The story kept spiraling, and she was poised on the brink of a truly life-altering moment. Would she be brave enough to seize her chance, or was she destined to remain caught in a web of hesitation? The worries seeped into the night, leaving her aching for clarity, clinging to a future that felt tantalizingly out of reach. Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she gripped the steering wheel of her delivery car, navigating the winding streets of the affluent neighborhood. Today felt different. A heavy resolve had settled in her chest, accompanied by a flicker of determination that she hadn't felt before. The chaos of her thoughts began to settle, making way for new possibilities. What if she allowed herself to dream bigger? This was the question that echoed in her mind. After her encounter with Jason, something had shifted within her, as if a door to her potential had creaked open. The memory of his encouraging smile ignited a spark, dim yet persistent, urging her to confront her fears. Not as a mere delivery girl, but as someone capable of transformation. Arriving at her next destination, Sarah took a deep breath and stepped out of the car. She approached the grand entrance of yet another mansion, but today, the judgment she had felt before seemed less intimidating. Instead, she focused on the drive inside her, pushing away the nagging thought of just a delivery girl. What did that even mean, anyway? In her heart, she knew she was so much more than that. As she handed over the meals, the homeowner barely glanced her way, absorbed in a conversation on his cell phone. However, instead of feeling diminished, Sarah chose to stand tall. She casually scanned the lavish kitchen appliances and the gleaming countertops, ideas blooming in her mind. She envisioned herself not just as an invisible servant, but as an entrepreneur. Ideas for starting her own food business, perhaps catering, began to swirl. After her deliveries, Sarah found a quiet moment in her car, parked in the lot outside a small cafe. She picked up her phone and opened a notebook app, bravely jotting down the bits of thoughts racing through her head. She wanted a life filled with purpose, a life where she could be a role model for Ethan, someone who pursued her passion despite obstacles. But then, self-doubt crashed over her like a wave. Could she actually transition from delivery girl to business owner? Did she have what it takes to face the financial risks, the fear of failure? Each word she typed felt like a step forward, yet the nagging questions wrapped around her mind tightly, choking her resolve. Still, she kept writing, channeling her anxiety into crafting a preliminary business plan, seeking clarity in the chaos. It was a rough outline, filled with bullet points about food delivery ideas, menu options, and steps for marketing. It felt exhilarating, but terrifying. And for the first time in months, her heart raced not from fear but from possibility. As twilight dimmed the sky, Sarah's phone buzzed. A message notification interrupted her reverie. It was from Jason, simply checking in. "How's your day going?" the text read. The warmth of connection surged through her. A flicker of excitement mixed with anxiety filled her, as visions of what they discussed, the potential for collaboration, maybe even partnership, flooded back. What if she could use his influence and reach to jumpstart her dream? But with that hope came more questions. Did she dare open up about her ideas? What if he dismissed them, seeing only her job and not her ambition? And what if she failed to deliver on her promises? The intricate dance of enthusiasm and trepidation left her breathless again. Yet as she sat beneath the evening sky, Sarah realized that doing nothing out of fear would lead her to the very fate she dreaded, remaining stagnant and unfulfilled. The fight within her burgeoned. She had to take a risk, even if it felt frightening. With a deep breath, she replied to Jason, her fingers clumsily typing, "I've been thinking, maybe we should talk about some ideas I have." The weight of the words felt monumental, like she was peering into the abyss of change. Could this simple act of reaching out reshape her life? It was a step into the unknown, but with potential rewards that shimmered like stars on the horizon. And just when she thought about what might unfold, a new thought struck her. Did she have what it took to balance her new ambitions with her responsibilities as a mother? With her heart in her throat, Sarah realized she was not merely a delivery girl anymore. She was a woman stepping into her power, ready to carve out a new path. But the question remained, could she truly embrace this transformational journey without getting lost in her fears? The moment of truth loomed ahead, waiting for her to choose. As dawn's light filtered through the car windows, Sarah's heart raced with anxiety and anticipation. She had revealed her aspirations to Jason, a bold step into uncharted waters. What would come next? The weight of her decision clung to her as she prepared for another day of deliveries, but today felt different. It felt like a launch pad to something bigger. Her first stop was the small bakery where she picked up pastries. The familiar scents swirled around her, igniting her nostalgia. Sarah remembered weekends spent cooking with her mother, the thrill of creating something delicious together. That tradition, now a flickering flame in her heart, fueled her resolve to not only provide for Ethan, but to inspire him. She needed to break free from complacency, not just for herself, but for him too. As she loaded the boxes into her car, her phone buzzed. Another text from Jason. "Let's meet at the cafe today. Can't wait to hear about your ideas." The excitement surged within her. It paired nicely with her existing anxiety. Their meeting wasn't merely a routine follow-up. It was an opportunity to build a bridge toward her future. Driving to the cafe, Sarah's thoughts spun with possibilities. What would she present? Should she stick to the initial ideas or share her grand vision about the business, even if it was still hazy in her mind? The fear of judgment whispered insidiously. She could almost hear the cynical disbelief of voices from her past urging her to play it safe. But those voices felt quieter now. Upon arriving, she scanned the cafe looking for Jason. He greeted her from across the room, his easy smile igniting a warmth in her. Taking a seat across from him, she noticed the subtle confidence in his demeanor. As their conversation unfolded, she felt an energetic exchange, the kind that reshapes worlds. They discussed mundane topics, but beneath the surface, an undercurrent of anticipation shimmered. "So, you said you had some ideas?" Jason prompted gently, his eyes inviting her to share. Taking a deep breath, Sarah's resolve solidified. This was her moment. Leaning forward, she cautiously unfolded her plan, detailing her vision of a catering service for busy families that combined interesting flavors with healthy eating options. The words streamed out, vibrant and alive, as visions of vibrant dishes filled her mind's eye, capturing his interest. At times, doubts lurked at the edges of her thoughts. Could she articulate her dreams convincingly? Would he take her seriously? Yet Sarah forged ahead. Her passion began to override the fear. The flicker of encouragement in Jason's eyes ignited her spirit, pushing her toward a flickering flame of potential. "This is great, Sarah," Jason exclaimed, leaning on the table, mind focused intently on her proposal. He posed questions that forced her to think further, probe deeper, and clarify her vision. With every inquiry, she felt the tendrils of self-doubt loosening their grip, replaced by a burgeoning confidence. As they conversed, she noticed the cafe's bustle fading into the background. Time slowed. Throughout their discussion, Jason shared stories of his entrepreneurial journey, struggles and triumphs, making her realize that fear was a shared experience, even for someone who appeared so successful. The shared vulnerabilities felt liberating, bridging the gap between their two worlds. But just when her excitement peaked, a dark undercurrent of instability crept in. The practicalities of her life pulled her thoughts aside. Her responsibilities at home, the obstacles of finances, and the mounting worries of failure. What if she bet it all and lost? The very idea felt suffocating, yet another part of her relished the challenge. Finishing up their coffee, Jason glanced at her with an expression that made her heart skip. "So how can I help you bring this to life? You've got potential, but I can see you need support." The generosity behind his offer was clear, yet terror settled into her chest. Accepting help meant confronting her own fears head-on, and that was far more daunting than she'd anticipated. As she left the cafe, a storm of emotions brewed within her. She clutched the doorframe, horizontal lines on its battered wood seeming somehow significant. Confronting her limits felt no longer like a burden, but a gateway to revitalization. With each step back to her car, she questioned her next move. Should she accept Jason's offer and allow him into her vulnerable dream, or would she retreat into the safety of her familiar role? If she chose to act on this spark, there was no guarantee. Driven by a sense of impending transformation, she knew she stood at the precipice. A decision had to be made, one that would reshape her trajectory entirely. But could she boldly leap into the unknown? Embrace risk over security? As she settled into her car, a mix of trepidation and thrill coursed through her, intertwining with her dreams. A wave of urgency swept over her. Her life, her business. Everything was about to change. But would she find the courage to seize this moment? The doorway of opportunity stood ajar, but would she dare to step through? The sun hung high, casting a warm glow on Sarah as she sat in her car, heart racing, wrestling with the weight of the choice she had to make. She stared blankly at the deserted parking lot for a moment, feeling its vastness reflect her mix of hope and fear. Every delivery had been a lifeline, a safety cord she clung to. But now she stood before uncharted territory. Taking a deep breath, she finally drove off, heading home. But part of her could not escape the aftermath of her conversation with Jason. His enthusiasm had ignited a fire within her. Yet that same fire sparked daunting questions. How did a single catering service stand against the mountain of challenges she faced? The deep-seated voice of doubt snickered in her mind, shaking her belief that she could even begin to attempt this leap. Though she had gathered her thoughts, the workday was far from over. The deliveries were just as monotonous, the streets passing under her tires like a blurred backdrop. At the red light, her mind strayed back to her vision of a catering service, the vibrant colors of fresh vegetables and organic grains swirling in her imagination. She could see families gathering around brand-new tables, sharing meals intent on health and enjoyment. Inspiration surged again. Sarah clenched the steering wheel, determined not to let her vision slip away. However, returning home only bolstered the reality of her situation. Ethan rushed to her, arms flung wide, bringing her a wave of solace amidst the tumult in her mind. Still, his presence rekindled the undertow of guilt. How could she chase her dreams when he needed stability? That evening, amid the clatter of dinner preparations, she watched him intently, realizing she had a profound responsibility to model courage and passion. She felt the urge to discuss her ambitions with him. Maybe he could sense the change brewing within her, an undercurrent of brave choices lurking beneath the surface. What if I start something new? She mused aloud while chopping vegetables. Ethan looked up, curious and unfiltered with his thoughts. Like a new kind of restaurant where families can eat tasty things that are good for them? A twinkle of excitement ignited in her. It felt good to share the idea, to expose her raw dreams to someone she trusted. "Sounds awesome, Mom," he replied, eyes glimmering with admiration. In that moment, the ancient guilt compelling her to focus on daily survival began to falter. Her dreams didn't just belong to her anymore. They could define a legacy of resilience for Ethan, a path he could choose to walk if he desired. Sleep was elusive that night. As she lay in bed, the darkness felt heavy, amplifying echoes of all the what-ifs swirling in her mind. The stakes felt climbable but steep. She had Jason's offer but no concrete plan. She had broken ground with him, but would she be able to nurture the seeds of opportunity that he had planted? Determined, she reached for her phone and texted Jason, "Thank you for today. I'm ready to take this step with your help." The decision coursed through her veins, simultaneously exhilarating and terrifying. He would respond. She knew it. There was something empowering in the acceptance of partnership, knowing she wasn't alone in this tumultuous journey. A reply came almost instantaneously. "Great. How about we meet tomorrow? We can start laying the groundwork for your vision." Those simple words struck her hard, the clash of excitement and fear creating a maelstrom within. The door had opened, but did she truly have everything to walk through it? With morning's arrival, anxiety churned anew. What if she was unprepared? What if the whole venture proved a disaster? But as the sun rose, so did a commitment to harness that fear into fuel. She was no longer merely a delivery girl. She was carving her path and navigating through uncharted territories. As she got dressed, pulling back her hair into a neat bun, Sarah felt the steadiness of purpose emerge. With every slip of fabric against her skin, she envisioned the myriad of choices yet to come, their potential unfolding like the petals of a blooming flower. Presenting herself as the woman she aspired to be became her armor against doubt. Tomorrow could signify the beginning of everything new, an opportunity to translate dreams into reality. Remembering Ethan's enthusiastic affirmation, Sarah knew she had to keep trekking forward, transforming her vision into actionable steps. But the impending meeting with Jason hovered over her, a tangible weight that loomed large. Could she truly turn her nascent dreams into a living entity, give them life beyond her imagination? With renewed determination, she climbed into her car, one resolve echoing in her mind. It was time to embrace her new reality, unshackled from the pulls of the past. But the question lingered. How would the world react to her bold leap, and what unforeseen challenges would await her? As Sarah drove toward the cafe where she had agreed to meet Jason, she could feel the weight of anticipation tightening her chest. Every part of her journey had been punctuated by doubt, but she had resolved to turn that fear into determination. The vibrant morning laid a canvas of possibilities in front of her, fueling her resolve with warmth despite her internal turmoil. Pulling into the parking spot, she noticed the cafe's window flashed with early morning sunlight, illuminating the bustling scene inside. Each patron seemed consumed by their own affairs, conversations bubbling, cups clattering. She stepped out of her car, feeling a mixture of excitement and trepidation swirl within her stomach. This meeting was a turning point. The air felt thick with potential, but also with the risk of exposure. Inside, the scent of freshly brewed coffee enveloped her, grounding her as she scanned the room for Jason. He was easy to spot, animatedly discussing something with a fellow customer. As he turned in her direction, a broad smile broke across his face. It was reassuring, like a lifeline thrown in the midst of turbulent waters. "Sarah, you made it," he called out, waving her over. The genuine warmth of his greeting eased some of her anxiety, and she joined him at the small table nestled near the window. "Thanks for organizing this," she said, her voice steady despite the rapid beat of her heart. "Of course, I can't wait to hear your ideas," he replied, leaning forward with interest. Just like that, the discussion began. They exchanged thoughts on health-conscious meals, unique catering offerings, and family-centered dining experiences. Jason's enthusiasm was infectious, and she felt grateful that someone believed in her vision. They spent hours dissecting her concept, with every point discussed inching her closer to something tangible. Yet with each passing minute, a nagging question gnawed at her. How could she market her ideas effectively? What skills did she possess beyond passion that would ensure this venture thrived? She hesitated, her voice trembling slightly. "But what if I'm not good enough? What if it fails?" Jason's gaze shifted, his expression flipping from excitement to empathy. "Failures are simply stepping stones to success, Sarah. You have a unique perspective that many don't. This isn't just about food, it's about community, something you already understand deeply." His words hung in the air, puncturing her bubble of doubt. Could it be true? She had forged connections during deliveries, had witnessed the sense of belonging food could bring, an insight she had taken for granted. But was that enough to build a business? As the discussion continued, she discovered the light glinting off details she had never examined closely. Her knack for customer engagement, a hidden talent for creative recipes developed through years of necessity, and a binding desire to cultivate a space where families could flourish together. Each realization peeled back layers of her self-doubt, illuminating capabilities she had overlooked. When they finally wrapped up, Jason turned serious. "We need to create a business plan, a roadmap. Your passion is palpable, and that's your strongest asset," Jason encouraged. Yet, beneath that excitement, lay his own skepticism about whether she could truly step into this new role. Sarah left the cafe feeling revitalized, a complex blend of motivation and uncertainty coursing through her. The potential paths ahead seemed exhilarating, yet perilous. What lay beyond the horizon of her safe, predictable job with dinner deliveries? The thought crashed against her sense of stability. She drove home with newfound resolve, but real questions simmered. How would she gather the resources to launch? What sacrifices would she need to make? The allure of her dreams collided with practicality. The faint whisper of fear still lingered, yet it was accompanied now by the melody of hope. Emboldened yet wary, Sarah realized this wasn't just about herself anymore. This journey would ripple through her life and Ethan's as well. As she parked outside their home, a delicate tension twisted within her. She sensed she was on the brink of something profound. But still, one deeper question remained. In seeking this path, what would she have to leave behind? The moment felt charged, the implications of her choices rustling in the air, eager to unfold. She had to confront the truth of what she was willing to sacrifice for the chance at a different future. Would that future still be worth it if it meant navigating the uncertainties ahead? The weight of Sarah's thoughts pressed against her as she entered her home, a stark contrast to the vibrant energy of the cafe. It was quiet, the sort of stillness that filled every corner, amplifying her swirling doubts. Ethan was still at school, which gave her a precious window to reflect. She sank onto the couch, staring at the unremarkable walls that contained her past and present. Could these walls bear witness to her transformation? Her mind flickered back to the interview with Jason. The discussion had invited her to dissect ideas she once thought were unattainable. The prospects of running a business had felt daunting yet thrilling. Still, each bright prospect was shadowed by the dark tendrils of self-doubt. What if her aspirations remained fantasies, mere echoes against the reality of her life? Determined to gain clarity, she grabbed her notepad and began to write. The first pages were filled with scribbles, fragmented ideas, sketching out potential dishes and branding concepts for her envisioned restaurant. With every stroke of the pen, her thoughts crystallized into tangible objectives. "What I need is a plan," she whispered to herself, feeling the relief wash over her. But plans required more than just enthusiasm. They demanded action. The paradox of wanting to create something significant while being tethered to her current obligations loomed heavy over her. Financial stability, time, energy. How could she juggle it all? This new venture demanded not only her passion but also sacrifices she had yet to understand fully. A clock ticked relentlessly in the background, and a wave of introspection washed over her. As much as she loved Ethan, she questioned the moments they would miss together during the long nights spent planning. Was she willing to trade their time together for the chance to create something bigger? The thought twisted in her stomach, making her question whether pursuing her dreams would deepen their bond or fracture it. Suddenly, a sharp resolve pierced through her uncertainty. She needed mentors, people who had walked the path she now dared to tread. Jason had already offered to help. Perhaps he knew others willing to guide her. Inspired, she opened her laptop and started researching local entrepreneurial workshops and business mentorship programs. The excitement bubbled within her again, warming the spaces left cooler by the morning's apprehension. As she navigated the websites, her focus sharpened. A mentorship program designed specifically for aspiring food entrepreneurs caught her eye. They offered training sessions and networking opportunities. Her fingers danced across the keyboard as she filled out the application form, each word reinforcing her commitment to this dream, amplifying her courage. But just as she clicked submit, a bond of fear gripped her once more. She could hear her inner critic loud and clear, echoing warnings of possible rejection, wasted time, and fruitless effort. What if this endeavor led nowhere? What if she poured out her heart only to have it crushed beneath the weight of failure? Taking a moment to breathe deeply, she acknowledged that fear was an aspect of growth. With every risk came the possibility of reward, but it would take bravery to confront the doubts. She reminded herself of Jason's words. Failures are stepping stones. If she could embrace her shortcomings, learn from them, perhaps she could emerge stronger. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting shadows across her living room, Sarah felt a flicker of something she hadn't addressed all day: hope. She realized her pursuit wasn't just about building a business, it was about growth, to expand beyond her insecurities, to weave a new narrative for her and Ethan. At that moment, the soft ping of an email interrupted her reflections. An invitation to meet potential mentors in a week. Heart racing, she opened it. Amidst the excitement, an unsettling realization struck her. She had committed to something beyond her initial grasp, something that required her full engagement and vulnerability. With anticipation thrumming in her veins, Sarah smiled to herself. She was on the brink of something profound, but the moment of truth loomed closer. The meeting would be pivotal. She steeled herself for the challenge ahead, fully aware that facing her fears was just as essential as nurturing her dreams. Tomorrow would bring fresh possibilities, but first, she needed to confront the nature of her own limitations. Would she leap forward, or allow her insecurities to tether her? The question lingered in the air, charged with potential. The day arrived, heavy with anticipation. Sarah stood before her bathroom mirror, the morning light casting a warm glow across her skin. She applied a modest layer of makeup, but her hands trembled slightly, betraying her inner turmoil. Today, she would step into a room filled with experienced professionals, each possessing wisdom she yearned to absorb. What would they think of her? Did she have anything valuable to contribute? The thoughts swirled in her mind, each echoing doubts she had been trying to suppress. Taking a deep breath, she straightened her shoulders. This was not the time for self-doubt, it was a moment of possibility. She dressed in her best outfit, a pair of tailored pants and a soft blouse that conveyed both professionalism and a touch of her personality. Each piece was chosen with care, reflecting a burgeoning desire to embrace her new identity as an aspiring entrepreneur. Today marked a turning point, and she needed to embody the change she sought. As she drove, the familiar streets slipped past in a blur. The cafe from yesterday, the school where Ethan spent his time, all faded into the background. Her mind raced, rehearsing how she would present her ideas. She needed to come across as knowledgeable, yet authentic. What if they asked questions she couldn't answer? The fear was oppressive, almost suffocating. Arriving at the building, Sarah gripped the steering wheel tightly, her heart pounding. The modern architecture loomed before her like a fortress. Each step towards the entrance felt momentous, a passage from her past self into the woman she aspired to be. She envisioned the mentors as luminaries brightening her path forward, yet a flicker of dread ignited within. What if they saw nothing promising in her? The room buzzed with low conversations as she entered. The vibrant energy was intoxicating yet intimidating. Sarah scanned the crowd, spotting several small groups mingling. It was then that she noticed a woman, elegantly dressed, with an air of warmth about her. Gathering her courage, Sarah approached. "Hi, I'm Sarah," she said, her voice steady despite her nerves. The woman turned, her eyes sparkling with interest. "I'm Mia. Lovely to meet you. What brings you here today?" As Sarah began to share snippets of her vision for a restaurant, Mia's expression shifted from polite curiosity to genuine encouragement. It felt like a gentle nudge that urged Sarah to dig deeper into her aspirations. Questions flowed back and forth, and Sarah began to lose herself in the exchange, igniting the passion buried beneath her self-doubt. Before long, they were joined by others. An older gentleman with a distinguished look introduced himself as Daniel, a seasoned restaurateur. He listened intently as Sarah explained her ideas, occasionally nodding with approval. The initial thrill of sharing her dream began to transform into something tangible, a sense of belonging among this group of dreamers and doers. But as conversations deepened, the reality of her situation crept back in. The looming fears that had once paralyzed her began to wrap around her again. With each new connection, the question nagged at her. Did she truly belong? Did her humble beginnings as a single mother and delivery driver set her apart, or would they see her only as an underdog? The evening progressed, and she found herself seated in front of Jason. His demeanor radiated support, and as they spoke, he posed a question that rattled her. "What's your biggest fear about starting this business?" Her breath caught. This was a direct challenge. Sarah pondered the question, the room fading away as she looked inward. What was she afraid of? Failure? Yes, but deeper than that was the fear of disappointing Ethan if she failed to grasp this opportunity. "I fear I will let my past hold me back," she finally admitted, vulnerability creeping into her voice. Silence followed, thick with understanding. Jason nodded knowingly. "Your past is a part of you, but it doesn't define your future," he responded, and for a moment his words felt like a key, unlocking hidden reservoirs of strength within her. As laughter and conversations resumed around her, Sarah recognized that facing her greatest fears would not only forge her path, but could elevate her relationship with Ethan. Pursuing what she loved might inspire him in ways she had never imagined. And as the night drew to a close, her resolve solidified. With new connections and insights, she felt emboldened to embrace her journey fully. Yet the echoes of fears remained, now mingled with excitement. What awaited her in the weeks ahead? The thought sent chills down her spine, igniting the flame of determination. She looked up, scanning the room once more, and realized the scope of her challenge extended beyond the business. It was unraveling the threads of her own limitations, confronting a truth she had feared to address. With her heart racing in anticipation, Sarah knew one thing. The closer she got to her dreams, the more she would face the mirrors of her own insecurities. What would she uncover next about herself on this arduous path? Time passed like a whirlwind, filling Sarah with both fervor and doubt. Each new day brought challenges that demanded her attention, and as she prepared for her next meeting, the stakes felt higher than ever. She immersed herself in research, jotting down notes and strategies to address questions, concerns, and potential obstacles. But the more she prepared, the deeper the gnawing sensation of inadequacy became. One Saturday morning, while Ethan played a video game just a few feet away, Sarah pored over a stack of business books. The bright screen flickered images of magnificent restaurants and bustling diners, each a testament to successful dreams. Her fingers grazed the spine of a book titled The Art of Resilience. Ironically, it mirrored her internal conflict, the need to be resilient while battling her self-doubts. Flipping it open, she read a passage about overcoming setbacks. Something inside nudged her toward action. "Hey, Ethan, how about we try cooking something new today?" she called over her shoulder, keen to involve him in something productive yet enjoyable. He looked up, intrigued. "What are we cooking?" "We could make homemade pizza. It's fun, and we can add any toppings we like." His excitement lit up the room. She began gathering ingredients, the simple act shifting her focus from anxiety to creativity. As they prepared the dough, Sarah found herself reflecting on the very essence of what she was attempting to create. Not just a restaurant, but also a haven for families, a place where laughter echoed alongside the sizzling of food. "You know, when I have my own restaurant, I want it to be a place where everyone feels welcome, just like this kitchen," she said, kneading the dough with determination. Ethan nodded, his small hands trying to mimic hers. "Can I help with the toppings?" "Absolutely. What do you want to put on?" Their conversation flowed effortlessly as they crafted their dinner, infusing joy into a mundane afternoon. But in that kitchen, an unexpected tension simmered beneath the surface. Ethan's innocent curiosity occasionally pricked at her heart. As they enjoyed their makeshift pizzas, he asked, "Mom, why don't you work in an office like others do?" The question caught Sarah off guard. "Well, my plan is to create something different, something special." "Like what?" His gaze bore into her, and she felt as if he could see right through her carefully constructed walls. The weight of her ambition pressed down. She didn't want to disappoint him. She realized that while she transformed her dreams into reality, she also needed to model courage and authenticity for Ethan. With each passing day, she felt like an imposter in her own journey. Juggling family and newfound ambitions was deceptively complicated. The voices from the seminar echoed in her mind, reminding her of the encouragement she had received. Yet the shadows of self-doubt returned with ferocity. Sure, she had blurted out her fears in the moment, but taking consistent steps forward was an entirely different challenge. Later that week, Sarah received an invitation from Mia for an informal support group session among aspiring restaurateurs. This wasn't merely a networking opportunity, it was a safe space to share setbacks and triumphs. Intrigued and frightened, Sarah hesitated, wondering if she could bare her soul again, admit her fears, and seek guidance. The morning of the meeting forced her into a whirlwind of thoughts. Would she disappoint Mia or the others? Was she truly ready to unveil her vulnerabilities? Stepping into new territory was always frightening, but remaining stagnant felt like an even greater risk. She arrived at a cozy cafe where the meeting was held, her pulse racing as she entered. The warm ambiance contrasted sharply with her internal tumult. Heart pounding, she scanned the multiple faces of individuals with stories of their own struggles and valor. A shared understanding passed through the room, a network spun from the same tension she felt. But amid the calm chatter, an unexpected desire ignited within her. The yearning for connection superseded the dread. She knew she couldn't hide forever. She needed to confront her fears head-on or risk stagnation, both personally and professionally. Just as she opened her mouth to speak, her heart raced. What truths would be unearthed here? And how would they reshape her understanding of herself? The revelation felt imminent, lurking in the shadows of her self-doubt. With a deep breath, she prepared to share her story. The moment Sarah spoke, the room seemed to tilt just slightly, a collective breath held in anticipation of what she would reveal. "My name is Sarah, and I'm trying to start my own restaurant," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. The words spilled forth like an unplanned confession, each one plucking at the strings of uncertainty that had followed her, uninvited, for weeks. A woman with a warm smile encouraged her. "Tell us what's on your mind, Sarah." "Honestly, I don't feel ready," she admitted, the barriers within her crumbling under the weight of truth. "I'm scared I'll fail, and I sometimes feel like I'm just pretending to be someone who knows how to do this." Gasps of recognition echoed softly around her. Sarah caught a glimpse of sympathetic nods, expressions that mirrored her own struggles. "You're not alone," the woman continued, her voice soothing like honey. "We all have fears, especially when we're brave enough to follow our dreams. What's been holding you back?" Looking around, Sarah realized she wasn't just facing her fears. She was standing in a circle of shared vulnerability, a community of aspiration woven together by doubts and dreams. "I worry about disappointing my son." Her heart raced at the admission. "He sees me struggling, and it makes me feel like I'm failing him. I want to show him that hard work pays off. How do I do that when I feel so lost?" A chorus of understanding flooded the space. Each participant recounted their own moments of inadequacy, their stories intertwining with hers in a web of truth and acknowledgement. The room pulsed with empathy, and for the first time, she felt the burdens of her ambition lighten as they harmonized together. "Have you ever thought about what would happen if you turned that fear into motivation?" Mia chimed in, her tone firm but nurturing. "Think about what your journey is teaching Ethan right now. You're teaching him resilience, courage, and the importance of pursuing passion. That's powerful." That notion rattled in Sarah's mind, awakening something dormant within. She had always seen her journey as an uphill battle, one laden with shadows. But Mia's words flipped the narrative. What if her aspirations weren't just for herself, but also for Ethan? As conversations within the group unfolded, Sarah's network began to flourish. The discussion spiraled from ideas for menus to addressing logistics and finances. An idea flared in her mind, a vision of her restaurant that could blend her life as a single mother and her burgeoning professional identity. Each shared experience began to build a framework around her ambitions. Returning home that evening, Sarah felt a shift inside her, a strengthening resolve born from the community of women who had opened her heart and expanded her perspective. She envisioned infusing her restaurant with something uniquely hers, inviting family inclusiveness, combinations of their favorite meals, and possibly informal cooking classes for kids. As she tucked Ethan into bed that night, she looked at his sleeping face, feeling a warmth in her heart she hadn't expected. Her fears were still there, lurking like shadows at the edges of her thoughts. But now they were less daunting, diluted by newfound determination. This journey was not just about fulfilling her dreams, it was about modeling what it meant to embrace one's true self. Ethan stirred slightly, his voice muffled with sleep. "Are you okay, Mom?" "Yes, sweetheart," she replied, an undeniable smile creeping across her face. "I'm really okay." Fueled by this moment, her drive intensified, awakening the possibilities lying ahead. She was ready to transform the roadmap of her ambitions. Yet a nagging question loomed within her. What if the biggest obstacle was not the fear of failing her dreams, but rather the fear of succeeding? She resolved to face that fear head-on, knowing it was only the beginning of a greater challenge. There was more to uncover, more to explore within herself. What decisions would she face next as she stepped onto this path of self-discovery? The thought both excited and terrified her as she drifted off to sleep. In a world of uncertainty, clarity soon beckoned. It was time to chart the unknown. The days turned into weeks, and as Sarah entered the final stages of preparation for her business venture, the horizon shone brighter than ever before. Each morning, she woke with a newfound purpose, the weight of doubt gently replaced by confidence. She felt transformed, not merely as a woman aspiring to own a restaurant, but as a mother eager to demonstrate resilience to Ethan. Her kitchen became her laboratory. Fueled by creativity, she experimented with recipes, melding traditional family favorites with contemporary twists. Local farmers became her partners, providing organic, fresh ingredients, creating an ecosystem grounded in community and quality. Each dish echoed her story, narrating the dedication she poured into her aspirations alongside her familial love. One sunny afternoon, Sarah scheduled a small tasting event, inviting friends, family, and the supportive network she had cultivated. This was important. She needed feedback, validation from those she trusted, and the chance to share her dreams publicly. That morning she dressed carefully, exuding the confidence she had worked so hard to build. Each detail reflected her personal touch, transforming the intimate space into a vibrant dining experience, complete with rustic decor and heartfelt handwritten menus. As guests began to arrive, a sense of camaraderie enveloped the room. Sarah watched their faces light up with curiosity and excitement and reminded herself that this was more than just a culinary showcase. It was an expression of her journey. Ethan, equipped with a small apron that almost drowned him, was her ever-enthusiastic helper. He busied himself with plating, his laughter mingling with the low murmur of adult conversations. Seeing him engaged in the hustle, Sarah felt a swell of fulfillment that transcended success. "Mom, can we make this a real restaurant one day?" Ethan asked during a brief lull in the chaos, his bright eyes wide with aspiration. The question struck a chord deep within her. In that moment she realized her fears had dissipated into something much more powerful: hope. "Absolutely, sweetheart. This is just the beginning," Sarah replied, her voice steady with conviction. As the tasting unfolded, her dishes sparked conversation among guests. The room buzzed with praise. Each plate that disappeared deepened her sense of accomplishment. Every smile reflected not just their enjoyment, but their recognition of her hard work and resolve. When someone asked about her journey, Sarah found herself confidently recounting the challenges she had faced, the rejections, the self-doubt, and the ultimate resolve to change her life for the better. When it came time to gather thoughts and feedback, the respect in the room was palpable. Mia and Jason, among others, engaged wholeheartedly. The feedback was constructive and incredibly encouraging, bolstering her vision and showcasing her innate talent. Later that evening, Sarah stood humbled yet proud as she surveyed the joyful chaos of her first official gathering. The applause and cheers that erupted after the final dish truly marked the moment. She wasn't just a delivery girl anymore. She was a chef, a businesswoman, a mother leading by example. The realization of her growth brought a warm wave of satisfaction. Sarah had transformed her life, not just for herself, but for Ethan. She had proven to him, through action, what it meant to pursue dreams fearlessly, showing him the importance of resilience and creativity. At the end of the night, it was the unmistakable connection with those around her that felt most profound. As guests lingered, appreciating the food and forming friendships, Sarah understood that her aspirations were woven into a larger narrative of connection and community. She had achieved something remarkable, something genuine. She had transformed not just her circumstances, but her identity. The next day, Sarah released her catering business to the world, fueled by enthusiasm and an anchor of stability, knowing she had established her place within the culinary realm. The feedback garnered from her tasting would help shape her future endeavors. No longer defined merely by a job, she had carved out her niche and could now pursue her ambitions while standing tall. Realizing the parallel paths of professional reinvention and personal evolution, Sarah embraced her newfound calling. Every order, every event, and every interaction had become an opportunity for further growth. She felt comfort in knowing that success was not simply about achieving a title, but about the fulfillment of bridging her passions with purpose. As she settled in for the night, she glanced at Ethan, now asleep, a soft smile gracing her lips. This was her achievement. This was her legacy. The journey would never be easy, yet it was hers to embrace, each step taken with unwavering courage. Now was her time to flourish, armed with confidence and an unyielding spirit. And you need to subscribe now to this channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that inspire transformation. Leave a like right now to feed the algorithm and show your support for the journey of personal growth. Comment below your reactions and theories about Sarah's incredible evolution. Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to witness the power of resilience and dream chasing. This is the moment to show your support, so don't wait even one more second.